Battles is a relatively new wargame magazine. It started publications last year, and it publishes interviews, articles about war games, but mainly 80% I would say is reviews of war games. And from the reviews of the games that I already knew from before, I got the sense that they are pretty serious, that they research the games quite well before they start writing about them. So they seem reliable to me. It's published in France, and sometimes you can tell that the contributors are not native speakers of English. However, if you can tolerate my English, I don't think you'll have any problem with theirs. Like other wargame magazines, it comes with a complete wargame. And today I'd like to talk about the game that comes with the issue number 3. And the game is called A Week in Hell, the Battle of Hue. I have no idea how that is pronounced because I don't know Vietnamese. It is a solitaire game set in Vietnam 1968, and you play the role of the American Army. Your task is to retake control of the city of Hue that recently fell in the hands of the North Vietnamese army. So it is urban fighting, which is interesting already because it's type of fighting that is not as represented in war games as other types are. And well, let's take a closer look and then we'll see how they handle that in this game. The game is introduced by an historical article that gives you an overview of the Battle of Hue. It is a short article, it is clear, it is concise, I really liked it. It really helped me get in the mood for the game and get to appreciate the chrome and certain mechanics of the game itself. The rules of play are really not long, it's only 8 pages. However, they are not the clearest rules that I've read recently. There are things introduced at some point that they refer to things that you do not know yet. There are just some ambiguities here and there, and certain paragraphs and certain sentences, just the phrasing was a little convoluted, and I had to reread them several times before I figured out what they really meant. However, it's nothing that really will require you multiple PhDs to go through. You set up the game, you play a turn or two, and everything will be clear. These are some of the counters for the game. The counters are of very good quality, they're very sturdy, very durable. The illustrations are nice, as you can see. They're simple, but they kind of create a certain atmosphere. They kind of remind me of illustrations for lock and load games. So, and also they're very functional, the information is very clearly presented. Here's the map of the game that represents the city of Hue. I really like the way it looks. It does give me the impression I'm looking at a picture taken from an airplane or from a satellite. It does create a strong sense of theme. Your job will be to start from here and to pour forces into the city and then to slowly move this way and clean up the entire area from the forces that the North Vietnamese sent in and that they are hiding in ambush behind every corner. Also, you have the possibility of cleaning up this area too for some extra points, but this is where the majority of the game will be taking place. To simulate the way the American army was taken by surprise by the North Vietnamese attack, you will start the game with virtually no units on the map. So the first couple of phases, your main problem will be just to bring people into the fight. To do that, during the reinforcement phase, you will take up to 3 available units and you will place them on the convoy marker, and then you will roll a die. If you're lucky, your convoy will advance 1 box, and maybe next phase you're lucky again, it will reach that box, which means at that point the unit can enter the map. However, you might waste a couple of turns there, you might even be so unlucky that actually your convoy is pushed back, so it might be a problem. However, once finally you have some people on the map, they can start fighting their way to the area where your helicopter can land. And if they manage to take control of that, then from that moment on, the following phases, you can start sending people in using the helicopter at the rate of 1 unit per turn. So it's only 1, the convoy can carry up to 3, but it's faster, it's safer. However, whichever you want to go, and probably you will want to use a combination of the 2 ways, your first problem is precisely that. You need to send people into the fight. The map might look empty, but as I said at the beginning, it is actually full of invisible enemies that are just waiting for you to make a wrong step so that they can jump at your throat. Each area that does not have a US control marker is by definition an enemy area, and you can enter it only after winning a fight there. So if I'm here and I want to go there, then I declare that I want to attack there, and I will draw 1 or 2 enemy cheats from a cup. In this case 2, because it's a red area, it's a particularly important one. And I will choose the strongest one. The enemies will be in the form of these counters that will have a strength anywhere between 1 and 4, and they will be placed on the map and I will be fighting them. And the fight will be very simple. There is only like one table, and it will be based on the strength of my company, the strength of the enemy, and the strength of the area. Still, the resolution is going to be immediate. No particular problem there, and sometimes you might even have a little bit the sense of the game being a little repetitive. You fight there, you move, you clean up, then you fight there, you move, clean up, move to the next area. And at the core of the game, the point of the game is to clean up sector after sector of this city. However, there are a couple of things and challenges and tricky aspects of the game that do make it much more interesting than it may look like at first. The first tricky aspect is in the fact that when you win a fight, you don't remove the enemy marker, but you flip it and it becomes an end fight marker. That means that the immediate battle is over, but the area is far from being safe. So from that point on, in fact, you have to commit the company that won the fight to clean up the entire area, and you cannot use them to do anything else until you're done. So it might take you a while, it depends on the dice, but it also depends on how many resources you decide to commit. So that will slow you down and will force you to do some strategy. Take also into account the problem of bringing reinforcements in, the problem of moving the command post. There will be things that you need to do, especially in order to maximize your effort and to save time, because you only have a limited amount of time to complete the mission. If you haven't taken control of the city by the 7th turn, then you lose the game. A very interesting challenge to me comes from the fact that the units can be green, or later in the game they can be flipped to their veteran status, represented by this line. And some units also become stronger, but what you're really looking for is for the veteran status. And I'll explain in a second why this is so. Units, they all start as green on the board, and they're subjected to a very tricky rule. Well, if they're attacking through a dotted line, which represents a space which gives them some protection, and they take a hit from the enemy, well, nothing happens. They take the hit, and that's already bad enough. But if they're attacking through a solid line, which represents an open space, in this case a road, and they take a hit from the enemy, then when they're green, something really bad happens, which is you have to place the Wounded Marines marker there. And if you've seen the movie Full Metal Jacket, remember the scene where the soldiers keep getting hit because they're trying to rescue a friend that was hit by a sniper. Here the same thing happens. You have to stop the attack and you start sending in your units trying to rescue the Marines that were left behind in the open space. All in the meanwhile, the enemy keeps firing at you and just keeps getting free shot, and that can create a terrifying domino effect. Just your units keep falling because they're trying to rescue the other ones. It can have a devastating effect. And if you think that things are already hard enough during the day, wait and see what happens at night. Each turn lasts one day, at the end of which you have a night phase, during which several things happen, and the most interesting of them to me is the infiltration. At that point, in fact, starting from these red arrows, the enemies will try to infiltrate your lines. What they will do, basically, they will try to draw a line from one of these arrows to one area that you control. It has a US control marker, and it is not guarded by one of your troops. Here, for example, nothing happens because you have the control and one unit. Here you have a controlled unit adjacent to an enemy area, so they will have to roll a die, and if they get lucky, what happens? They infiltrate the area and they simply remove the control marker. The following day, you will have to fight to take control of the area again, back to square one. Even worse is the domino effect that might come with it, because if that just happened, well, look at this. Now there is another area that I control, has nobody guarding it, and is adjacent to an enemy area. They roll again, they get lucky, oops, And again, the infiltration, if you're not careful and not lucky, can go pretty deep. And just you sit there and you look at them destroying everything that you have been doing during the day. It's a very dangerous thing that might happen to you, and the only way to prevent it is to stretch your lines towards the end of the day to completely seal off the areas that you have defended. Sometimes actually you will be fighting towards the end of the day just to make sure that you can take control of that one area that you need to close an entire section of the city. The Battle of Hue is a light war game. It's very approachable, very easy. And what I really like about it is the narrative that it creates, how different parts of the game work differently and they create a story. How at the beginning you're rushing in your men and you're probably just to get them there. Later you have your men in position but they are untrained, they do not know how to fight effectively. So you try to send them out in missions where they can gain experience without getting killed. Later, finally, you have both the numbers and the strength, you have all your veterans there, but you're running out of time. The mission is almost over and you need to complete it, otherwise you lose the game. Also at that point you have a vast area that you control that you need to protect, so you're sending men out just to protect those areas, whereas you would like to send them somewhere else to complete the mission. So there will be interesting things to do, but what I like is it really seems to create a story. I like how simple mechanics and rules, they do give me this sense of history, and Chrome and mechanics seem to be to go together pretty well in this game. The one thing that might concern me a little bit is precisely because of this, I wonder if it's replayable in the long run. The fact that the story is so strong maybe will make the game look a little samey. Again, if you play it several times or many times. I played it several times, I didn't have the problem, just wondering about the future. However, probably if anybody comes up with a scenario with alternate victory conditions, that probably will be enough to solve that problem. However, again, that's for the very far future. As of now, the game is fun, is light, it's entertaining, might appeal to the non-war gamer, might be a light diversion for the war gamer. It comes with a nice magazine, so I would say that Battles issue number 3 and the Battle of Hue make a nice package.